Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to the Atomic Snack Bar. I'm your host, Mr. R. Sterling, and tonight we'll be taking a look at 5 of my favorite 1960s sci-fi robots. And number 5 on the list is Adam Link from The Outer Limits from 1964. And Adam Link first appeared on the Season 2 episode I, Robot, and it tells the story of a robot, the aforementioned Adam, who is on trial for willfully killing his creator. But as the trial progresses, we learn much more about Mr. Link, and his guilt becomes less and less cut and dry. And like with everything I will be discussing tonight, this was a great robot design that looks a bit like a robot ape, but also a little sleazy, so kinda makes you wonder if an ape had his way with a robot. Now, I'm not saying this was the actual ending to The Monster and the Ape from 1945, but I'm not saying that either. Let's take a quick look at the Metalligen Man and let you decide. Adam was played by film and TV actor Reed Morgan. Morgan is known for his numerous Western roles, but also appeared on The Twilight Zone, The Beach Girls and the Monster, and probably most importantly, he played the Octoman in the 1971 film Octoman. Didn't expect an Octoman reference, did you? The effects on the episode, and one would assume Adam as well, were done by Pat Dinga. Dinga worked on 11 different episodes of The Outer Limits, and you ready for it? You ready? Sure you're ready? Slim, you ready?
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, he's ready. But Dinga also worked on Bride of the Monster. Interestingly, The Outer Limits was not Adam's first appearance. He began as a recurring character in issues of Amazing Stories magazine, written by the Binder brothers. What really made him stand out was that he was a sympathetic robot, and would go on to battle both evil robots and aliens. Adam also made his debut in comics, featuring both weird science fantasy and creepy. This is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. I don't get into a lot of normal people type shows, but I'm a sucker for courtroom drama, especially when it has a sci-fi element. This episode would go on to receive a remake in the 1990s Outer Limits series, and even saw the return of original episode co-star Leonard Nimoy, albeit as a different character. And you probably know Nimoy best from his role in Zombies of the Stratosphere.
Magnavision.
My mistake. And number 4 on the list is Torg from Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, also from 1964. And Santa Claus Conquers the Martians tells that classic tale, as first told by Mark Twain, of the Great Gazoo kidnapping Santa Claus in order to bring a little fun into the lives of Martian children. But the Great Gazoos are not alone in their noble Yuletide kidnappings. With them they have the bot of the hour, our buddy Torg. And Torg is the epitome of what I look for in a classic sci-fi robot. Just a wonderful design with his fancy pecs and big yellow eyes that always look surprised. But it makes sense. Even he is probably surprised at just how awesome he actually is. But I could not find any information on who played Torg or who designed him, which is odd, considering even the person playing the polar bear is credited. Yet no Torg, which leads us to the obvious conclusion that Torg was actually a functioning robot. To further support this theory, I did an internet search, and the most frequently asked question about the film was, is Santa Claus Conquers the Martians based on a true story? I did though want to mention Ramsey Mostoller, the costume designer on the film, mainly because she was a costume designer on Dark Shadows, both the series and the first film, and I am determined to start working in some Dark Shadows action onto the channel. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians also got a one-shot comic book adaptation in 1966 from Dell Comics. It also came with a record. And since this entry is going to be a little short, let's just take a moment to look at the comic from Dell. And number 3 on the list is one that many claim is actually my biological father, and that's Robert the Robot from Fireball XL5 from 1962. And Fireball XL5 is a Super Marionation series that tells the story of the crew of the spaceship Fireball XL5 as they patrol space in the year 2062. And among the crew is Earth's most advanced robot, the ship's co-pilot, Robert the Robot. No relation.
Meet Robert, the talking robot.
No relation there either. Now, the aforementioned Super Marionation refers to the style of show, which was a Jerry Anderson production using electronic marionettes whose mouth movements were synchronized with pre-recorded dialogue. And I guess it's safe to say I'm biased, but Robert is the true standout of the show with a really unique character and design. He's not only transparent, but also experiences emotion and gets all steamy. Not that kind of steamy. Mind out of the gutter, people, come on. And Robert was voiced by Jerry Anderson himself. Sorta, using an artificial larynx. He didn't like to take credit for the voice though, saying it all came from the device. And apparently our buddy Robert was the most difficult of the marionettes to control because of his light weight. As to the design, the head designer and marionette maker for Fireball XL5 was Mr. John Blundell. Blundell was a sculptor, designer, and puppet maker who worked exclusively on Jerry Anderson-related productions, including pre-Super Marionation series Torchy the Battery Boy, as well as Stingray and Thunderbirds. Robert would live on past the series and would feature in the Fireball XL5 comic, which first ran in the weekly UK comic magazine TV Comic from 1962 to 1964, before moving over to the TV Century 21 comic series. The show would also receive a single issue release from Gold Key in 1963 and an illustrated storybook by Little Golden Books. But most important of all, Fireball XL5 would get some toy releases, including a playset which featured a little plastic Robert. And on that, we should take a break.
It all started when I discovered Wheels. You know, these wheel-shaped cheese-flavored snacks that taste so... cheese-flavored. Anyhow, I was fixing a tray of wheels when suddenly I saw a wheel stealer.
I am a wheel stealer. Ha ha ha.
And he ate up all my wheels. So then I fixed a tray of flutes, these flute-shaped snacks with a butternut flavor. But when I turned my back, a flute snatcher got them.
The flute snatcher strikes again!
So then I bought crowns, crown-shaped snacks with the scrumptious corn-roasted flavor, and I was enjoying their corny crunchiness when I realized the character on the TV screen was in reality a crown grabber. Crowns! So that's it, friends. When you eat wheels, flutes, and crowns, you're gonna meet wheel stealers, flute snatchers, and crown grabbers. But beware, they're very sneaky and have all kinds of disguises. Why, there may be some in your house right now.
Maxim freeze-dried coffee brings you 6 exciting summertime uses for your percolator. We do this now because it's time to enjoy a tall, frosty glass of iced Maxim and use your percolator for other things. For a refreshing summer change, try iced Maxim. You may never perk again.
And we're back with number 2 on the list, and that's Mechanicong from King Kong Escapes from 1967. And King Kong Escapes tells the story of the villainous Doctor Who has grown very tired of time traveling and hearing the word exterminate. So he's settled down into the simple life of collecting Element X. But darn if Element X isn't tough to get. So he builds himself a robot Kong in order to do so. But that doesn't quite work out, so he goes out and gets the real thing instead. But when Kong escapes, see what I did there? Doctor Who sends an upgraded Mechanicong to bring him back. And Mechanicong is one of my all-time favorite Toho villains and giant robots. Excellent design and highly underused. And he was played by Hiroshi Sekita. Sekita was an actor and karate expert with several memorable kaiju performances under his belt, including Sanda in The War of the Gargantuas, Anguirus and Gorosaurus from Destroy All Monsters, and Godzilla in certain scenes in Son of Godzilla. Also worth mentioning was that he also played the Gorosaurus in King Kong Escapes. As to Mechanicong's design, his head was modeled by Teizo Toshimitsu, and Toshimitsu is one of the true greats in the world of kaiju, with credits on everything from the original Godzilla all the way to Space Amoeba in 1970. Then we have Yasue Yagi of the also very important Yagi brothers. Yagi designed Mechanicong's body. and the suit itself was made out of the hard material found within bath mats. It should also be noted that Mechani-Kong, aka Robot Kong, first appeared in the Rankin and Bass Toei King Kong animated series from 1966. Sorta. It was a different storyline and a very different character design, but he was the minion of Doctor Who, and I do dig this design as well. There was interest in bringing Mechani-Kong back into the films, but after Turner Entertainment blocked a proposed remake of King Kong vs. Godzilla, Toho eventually gave up on the matter, which is too bad. I'd be very curious to see what a Heisei Mechani-Kong would have looked like. And before we get to number 1, we should do an honorable mention, and that's all the great sci-fi robots that have appeared on Doctor Who. But I have not been able to get away with using a single piece of Doctor Who footage. Last time I tried, my video was completely blocked. Probably all those Element X jokes, or the fact that my favorite Doctor is Peter Cushing. And number 1 on the list is probably no surprise for patrons of the snack bar, and that's the B9 from Lost in Space from 1965. In Lost in Space, a sci-fi take on the Swiss Family Robinson, tells the story of a family of space colonists who get lost in space thanks to a wee bit of sabotage courtesy of the show's original villain, who would go on to really become the star of the show. And with the Space Family Robinson is the environmental control robot, the B9, or the Robot. And this is my favorite 60s bot for my all-time favorite sci-fi series. Talk about one of the most unique designs in sci-fi. And this was thanks to one of the series' art directors, a Mr. Robert Kinoshita, who supposedly nicknamed him Blinky. Hey, it's the first supposedly of the episode. And I'm sure most of you know Kinoshita from his contributions to Robbie the Robot. Now, the suit actor for the B9 was actor, director, and stuntman Bob May. May also appeared on an episode of The Time Tunnel and did stunts for The Nutty Professor. He was rather fond of the B9 costume, calling it his home away from home. May liked to smoke as well, and another supposedly, he had an ashtray equipped within the costume.
Mr. Allen came onto the set and saw the smoke coming out of the top of the robot and says, "My God, the robot's on fire," and went to get a fire extinguisher. I yelled at him. I said, "No, it's only me. I'm smoking."
There were 2 different B9s built by 20th Century Fox prop maker Bob Stewart, a costume version and a static version. And the final piece of the robot puzzle was famed announcer and voice actor Dick Tufeld, who voiced our bubble-headed booby. Tufeld had an impressive resume with credits on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Time Tunnel, and Thundar the Barbarian. And I should probably mention he was the narrator for the 1978 Fantastic Four series. Wouldn't want a certain Mr. Santiago disowning me again. After Lost in Space ended, the B9 had trouble finding work. But after a full makeover, he would end up getting another starring role on the Hanna-Barbera live-action series Mystery Island from 1977. Though here, he was dubbed over by a Mr. Frank Megatron Welker.
You disgust me.
And that's all the time we have for this week, and don't worry if I missed any of your favorites. Part 2 to this video is already up. So please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic.